Every single habit on this list was recommended by doctors, sold by major brands, and backed by real science. People didn't stumble into these by accident. They were told, sometimes directly by their physician, that this was the smart, responsible thing to do, and some of them paid for it with their lives. So here's what this video is. It's a countdown of 10 everyday healthy habits that were actually killing the people who followed them. And the reason this list is different from every other one you've seen is that these weren't obvious quack cures from the fringes. These were mainstream, trusted, normal. We're talking about things your grandparents were prescribed, things sold at pharmacies, things that entire generations built their health routines around. I've got 10 of them, and I'm saving the wildest one for last, because it involves a supplement that's still on shelves right now, still marketed as a health product, and it was measurably accelerating the exact disease it was supposed to prevent. We'll get there. Let's start at number 10. Number 10. The reusable laxative pill that families pass down as an heirloom. This one gets gasps every time, so let's just go right into it. In the 1600s and 1700s, one of the most popular health products in Europe was a small, bullet-shaped pellet made of metallic antimony. The idea was that you swallowed it, it moved through your digestive system and purged your bowels. And then, here's the part, because antimony is a metal, it passed through your body completely intact. So you fished it out of the chamber pot, washed it off, and used it again, the same pill, over and over, for your entire life. And when you died, the pill went in the will. Some families reportedly kept the same antimony pill in circulation for over 100 years, passing it from generation to generation like a piece of jewelry. People called them everlasting pills. Related antimony cups were also used. Wine was left in them overnight, the metal leached in, and you drank the result as a purge. By one historical account, 3 Londoners died in 1637 after sharing a single cup. A laxative pellet listed in a will. That's where we're starting. Number 9. The luxury wellness retreat where the cure was starvation. In the early 1900s, a woman named Dr. Linda Hazzard ran a sanitarium in Olalla, Washington, where she offered a fasting cure to wealthy patients. The treatment was simple. You came in, you got put on a diet of small amounts of tomato broth and asparagus juice, and you stayed there for days, weeks, sometimes months. The locals had a name for the place. They called it Starvation Heights because they'd occasionally find skeletal patients who had escaped, staggering down the road begging for food. At least a dozen people starved to death under her care, and some accounts put the number much higher. She and her husband also helped themselves to the estates of patients through fraud and forgery, and her facility eventually included a basement autopsy room. The closing detail on this one is almost too perfect. In 1938, Linda Hazzard died while attempting to cure herself by fasting. Number 8. Victorian women eating arsenic for clearer skin. The obsession with clear, glowing skin is not new. In the 1800s, there was a genuine craze around arsenic as a beauty product, and it grew out of reports from a region called Styria in what is now Austria, where local arsenic eaters supposedly had unusually clear, blooming complexions. Companies ran with it. The most famous product was Dr. James P. Campbell's arsenic complexion wafers, marketed as absolutely safe and harmless to anybody, which women would nibble regularly to erase freckles, blackheads, and blemishes. Here's the part that makes this genuinely cruel. Prolonged arsenic exposure actually darkens the skin and causes dark spots. The exact opposite of the promise. And Fowler's solution, the medicinal arsenic compound that was also widely used, is now linked to skin cancer. So this was a beauty routine that slowly poisoned you while making your skin worse. Some users died, and the whole thing was sold at the pharmacy. Number 7. The immune booster that turns you permanently blue. Colloidal silver. It's still sold today. If you've spent any time in wellness spaces online, you've seen it. Marketed as a natural cure-all, an immune booster, an antibiotic alternative. The famous case is Paul Carrison, who became known as Papa Smurf after years of drinking a homemade colloidal silver brew turned his skin a deep, permanent blue-purple. Even after he cut back, he stayed blue. Because argyria, the condition caused by silver deposits in the skin, is irreversible. A Montana political candidate named Stan Jones also turned his skin blue from colloidal silver use. Now, to be fair, Argyria usually disfigures rather than kills, so this is the "it doesn't kill you, it just marks you for life" entry on the list. But that's its own kind of shock because people assume that natural means harmless. The blue skin is permanent proof that it isn't. And by the way, if you're finding this interesting and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. Drop a comment with which one has surprised you the most so far, because we've got some genuinely wild ones still coming, and the algorithm loves to know people are talking. Number 6. Heroin, sold as a safe medicine for children's coughs. In 1898, Bayer, yes, the same company that makes aspirin, commercially launched heroin and marketed it to physicians as a wonder drug. It was described as roughly 10 times more effective than codeine as a cough suppressant, superior to morphine for pain, and crucially, supposedly non-addictive. With tuberculosis and pneumonia among the leading killers of the era, it was pushed hard as a respiratory remedy and given to children for coughs. The name itself came from Bayer's own test subjects, who reported that the drug made them feel heroic, heroisch in German. But here's the detail that really makes people wince. Heroin was also actively promoted as a safe alternative to morphine, and even as a cure for morphine addiction. A supposedly non-addictive fix for addiction, that turned out to be more addictive than the drug it was meant to replace. Sold at the pharmacy, prescribed by doctors, given to kids. Number 5. The fat burner that literally cooks you from the inside, and is still being sold online right now. 2,4-dinitrophenol, or DMP, was proposed in the early 1930s as a drug to treat obesity because it genuinely does burn fat. The mechanism is real. It uncouples a process in your cells called oxidative phosphorylation, which causes energy to be released as heat instead of being stored, so your metabolism spikes, you burn fat. The problem is that it drives your core body temperature up, and it keeps going up until your body's ability to regulate heat completely fails. The result is fatal hypothermia. Essentially, you cook from the inside. There's no dramatic overdose moment. Victims just spike a fever they cannot bring down. DMP is an industrial chemical also used in fertilizers and in the manufacture of dyes and explosives. And it keeps killing otherwise healthy people in their early 20s who bought it online as a weight loss supplement. It's not a historical story. It is still happening. Number 4. The radioactive health water that dissolved a millionaire's jaw. In the 1920s, radium was the hottest thing in wellness. It was new, it was mysterious, and it had this reputation for being energizing. One of the most popular products was Radithor, distilled water with real radium dissolved in it, sold as a health tonic. Eben Byers was a wealthy socialite and US amateur golf champion who was prescribed it after an arm injury in 1927. He felt fantastic, so he kept going. Eventually he drank around 400 bottles and was even giving it to his girlfriends and one of his horses. Then his body started falling apart. His entire upper jaw, except for 2 front teeth, and most of his lower jaw had to be surgically removed. Holes were forming in his skull. He died in 1932 at 51 years old. The Wall Street Journal ran the headline, "The radium water worked fine until his jaw came off." And when his body was exhumed in 1965, his remains were still highly radioactive. He was buried in a lead-lined coffin. That detail almost nobody uses. Number 3. Drinking water, pushed until it kills you. Everyone has heard drink more water. It's one of the most universally accepted pieces of health advice on the planet. And taken too far, it can kill you. The condition is called hyponatremia, and it happens when you drink so much water so quickly that the sodium in your blood gets dangerously diluted. Your cells absorb the excess water and swell. And because your brain sits inside a rigid skull, that swelling has nowhere to go. In January 2007, a 28-year-old mother named Jennifer Strange entered a radio contest called Hold Your Wee for a Wee. Contestants drank water and tried not to use the bathroom. She drank more than 1.5 gallons in roughly 3 hours, complained her head hurt, went home, and was found dead about 6 hours later of hyponatremia. Her family won a $16.5 million wrongful death verdict. And this isn't just a stunt story. Early observational studies had consistently reported a protective association between certain dietary habits and disease outcomes, and the same blind trust in more is better thinking showed up with water. A New England Journal of Medicine study documented dangerous hyponatremia in Boston Marathon runners who overhydrated during the race. The advice wasn't wrong, the dosage was. Number 2. Margarine, the heart-healthy swap that quietly became one of the deadliest dietary mistakes in history. For decades, starting in the 1950s and going strong through the 1970s and beyond, doctors and nutritionists told the public to abandon butter for margarine. The reasoning seemed solid. Butter has saturated fat. Saturated fat raises cholesterol, so swap it for vegetable-based margarine and protect your heart. Responsible. Smart. What your doctor recommended. The problem was the chemistry. To turn liquid vegetable oil into a solid you can spread on toast, you have to partially hydrogenate it. And partial hydrogenation creates trans fats. Trans fats increase low-density lipoprotein, the bad cholesterol, while simultaneously decreasing high-density lipoprotein, the good cholesterol. That double punch is something even saturated fat doesn't do. Trans fat intake is responsible for more than 500,000 premature deaths from coronary heart disease each year around the world. 500,000 people a year, and the generation that was told margarine was the responsible choice had no idea. Harvard's own health publications later noted flatly that there was never good evidence that switching from butter to margarine actually reduced heart attack risk, and that many people felt genuinely duped. The thing that was prescribed as heart protection was damaging hearts at a massive scale. And now, number 1, the one I mentioned at the beginning. The supplement sold specifically to prevent cancer that was measurably accelerating it. Antioxidants have had a great reputation for a long time, and it came from real data. Early observational studies reported a protective association between intake of beta-carotene-rich vegetables and lung cancer risk. And that made sense. People who ate lots of vegetables rich in beta-carotene got less lung cancer. So researchers did the logical thing. They ran the experiment. The alpha-tocopherol beta-carotene cancer prevention study, the ATBC trial, demonstrated that beta-carotene supplementation increased lung cancer incidence by 18% in smokers and led to an 8% excess in overall mortality. That's not a small signal. That's nearly 30,000 male smokers in a randomized controlled trial, and the group taking the cancer prevention supplement ended up with significantly more cancer and more deaths than the group taking a placebo. Then a second trial called CARET, which tested beta-carotene plus vitamin A in smokers and asbestos workers, found the same thing. CARET was stopped ahead of schedule in January 1996 because participants receiving the active intervention were found to have a 28% increase in incidence of lung cancer, a 17% increase in incidence of death, and a higher rate of cardiovascular disease mortality compared with participants in the placebo group. They stopped the trial early because the supplement was hurting people. This is peer-reviewed medicine published in the New England Journal of Medicine. A supplement sold to prevent cancer was measurably accelerating it in the people who took it. And the reason it's number 1 isn't just because of the scale, it's because this one is still happening. Beta-carotene supplements are still on shelves. People still buy them thinking they're doing something smart for their health because the original observational data still sounds convincing. The vegetables are fine. The pill is the problem. So here's where we are. We started with a laxative pellet in a will, moved through arsenic beauty wafers and a radium tonic that dissolved a man's jaw, past a fat burner that cooks you alive and heroin marketed to children, and we landed on a cancer prevention supplement that caused more cancer. Every single one of these was the responsible choice at the time. Doctors endorsed them, science seemed to support them, brands sold them as the smart option. And that's the thing that should actually stick with you. Not paranoia, but a little more humility about whatever the current consensus calls obviously healthy. History has a pattern here. If you want to keep going down this rabbit hole, the next video on your screen is one you really don't want to miss. And if this one surprised you, subscribe, because we do this kind of thing a lot.